Hello my friends and welcome back. Today we're going to take a comparative look between the two relatively recent releases from China. These are the titanium pens. One of them is the group of Majohn P136s and the other one is the Asvine J16. They're both supposedly titanium. The P136 comes in two variants. One is the hammered finish, the other one is the typical steel-like smooth finish. The hammered pattern is a little bit more difficult to find and it's a lot more expensive. So we're going to compare the Asvine to the Majohn and see if the dramatic price difference that is between them is justified by the Majohn. So right away we can tell that both of these pens are kind of going for the Montblanc 146 look. And if you look closely, the Asvine is much larger than the actual 146, and the Majohn is about the same size, maybe a little bit taller. But the one thing I noticed is that the modern Legrand 146, and it fits the cap from the Majohn P136 perfectly. So there we go, and then we can try the other one. It fits too. It actually gives a cool look to the 146. So we can see that the Majohn actually is going for the look and playing all the parts. I don't think that the piston is interchangeable, but I could be wrong with that. When it comes to the Asvine, however, I don't think that it fits. This is not compatible in terms of the caps. So it's not as close of a resemblance, although in shape they do resemble the 146. The question we're going to answer today is how good these are and are they worth their price, and the price difference between the two, is it justified, because the Majohn is sold for about between 100 and 180 depending where you get it and depending on what variant you get. The Asvine is sold for around $60 to $70 depending on where you get it from. One thing I must mention is that this is of course not a review of these pens. There are several very good reviews by other YouTube channels of these pens, and I would refer you to them for a detailed look at these pens, but I will just mention the similarities and differences as we go on. Let's just pick one of these Majohns and then compare them side by side and go from there. So looks wise, like I mentioned before, they're going for the same concept of basically emulating the Montblanc 146. You can see that on the clip they even have that prominence, which is similar to the 146. Their finials are about similar and about the same height. Overall look wise, the Asvine is a matte finish and supposedly has less fingerprint magnetism, whereas the Majohn seems like more polished, kind of like a stainless steel finish. However, this by no means is a fingerprint magnet, so it has done very well in the past couple of months that I've owned it. So it is completely up to the user which they actually prefer the look of the Majohn. This one kind of looks plasticky from distance, so that's initial impressions. The finials are about the same. Maybe the Majohn is a little bit more sharp. You can see that the clips are also very similar, and they are both similar to the clip on 149 with that raised area towards the top. And when we get down to the cap ring, the Majohn has 3 separate cap rings, and the middle one is engraved very nicely actually with Majohn P136, and the Asvine has just the Asvine with 2 bands there, so the Majohn has closer resemblance to the 146. Past the ring, you can see that the Asvine is actually quite a bit taller, maybe by 3 to 4 millimeters, and probably girthier compared to the Majohn. We'll see how that plays into the writing experience in a minute, but let's uncap these. The Asvine takes 1 turn, 1.5 turns to uncap, and the Majohn 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just a little bit less than 1.5 turn. Try that again. Just a little bit short of 1.5 turns. So when you uncap these pens, you're welcomed with two different nibs. So for 1 second, please ignore the nibs that are on here. These pens come with their own nibs. The Asvine comes with a JOVO number 6 nib unit. I ordered an extra fine. You can order extra fine, fine, medium, broad. Those are the ones that I remember seeing on Amazon. The Majohn comes with their own Moonman nibs. They come in medium and fine. I think they also come in broad. But the Asvine is actually a JOVO nib unit. The Moonman, the Majohn, has their own nib units. However, I found that they are compatible with BOG 250 nib units. As you can see in my other P136, I did put the Pelican M800 nib inside a BOG 250 nib unit, and it fits here perfectly. So that's right away one of the big differences between the two pens, is that one is a JOVO, one is a BOG. I think that they're the best of both worlds. So if you want one, you can get one or the other to fit either of the two major nib manufacturers. As we know, many of the custom nibs come in either BOG or JOVO, mostly in JOVO nib units because they're, I guess, easier to get, cheaper to get, and easier to modify. But nonetheless, if you like one or the other, the decision is already made for you. The felling mechanism on both of these is, of course, via a piston, and I have operated these pistons several times, and I've not had problems with them. I do not prefer one over the other, and even though these are metal, they're easy to operate, and I've never had leaking problems or hard starts with these nibs that I've put on, and never really had dry out issues with the cap. But I've used them even like sporadically. I haven't used them every day, so these are pretty good at sealing too. That brings us to the ink window. So the Asvine is going for the older style complete window where you can see through completely your ink level. Nice. The Majohn is going for more of the more recent 146 look. If you can see, the 146 Legrand has the same prison bar kind of ink window. It works very well. It's not like there's no time where I say, oh, I cannot see the ink level. And if we compare the Asvine is going for the older look. If you can see the ink window here, it's complete. There's no bars. So I guess each one of these are going for a different era if they're trying to imitate 146. They both work well, and I really haven't had a problem with them. That brings us to the grip section and the pen in hand experience. What I've seen is that both of these, the grip section per se, are very comfortable. Even though they have threads, the threads on the Asvine are quite a bit larger compared to the Majohn, but they're both polished very well, and I do not see a problem. Where I do see a problem, unfortunately, is with the Asvine having this ring here. They have a ring here at the end of the ink window. This is protruding. It's kind of like a ring, a steel ring that hits me the wrong way every time I hold this. So I hold my pens, and if I write with this for 10-15 minutes, I will easily have a sore thumb. You can see that just by holding it for a second. So this is a major flaw in terms of the writing comfort with this pen. This either needs to be filed down, which I'm not going to do, or Asvine will need to do something to fix this in the future, because this makes this pen unusable for anything longer than a few minutes. And the Majohn doesn't have the same problem. The grip section is very comfortable. It's easy to hold. It's actually a little bit back heavy, but it rests on the snuff box here. Snuff box. And it rests in this part of the wrist, and the writing experience is quite comfortable. And even with longer writing sessions, I have not had difficulty holding this pen and difficulty with fatigue. That's something to keep in mind. So when it comes to writing experience with these pens, both of the stock nibs, the Jowo number 6 unit that comes with the Asvine and the Moonman nib that comes with the Majohn P136, they're very nice writers. I would say that the Jowo unit does write a little bit drier, in the Majohn does write a little bit wetter, and when they say extra fine and fine, they're about comparable to each other. Maybe the extra fine on Moonman is a little bit wetter. So I have done a writing sample which I will go through. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that writing sample. What I will do now is do a final comparison, maybe in form of a checklist. I'm going to use my Pelican nib, and we'll compare the two and decide which one is the better pen for us. Let's start with overall looks. To me, the Majohn has the better looks. The titanium is more matte finish on this one, and even the polished one, it does not have fingerprint magnetism. And what I really like about this is the gold accents are a little bit less flashy than usual offerings that we have seen from Chinese. For example, the Hongdians, their gold plating is pretty tacky. This is just as good as a new Montblanc 149. Very, very shiny after 2 to 3 months of use. I do not see it faded or scratched. So looks wise, I would give it to Majohn. Nibs. So the nib selection is basically, it depends what your taste is. What comes in the package when you purchase these pens, they're pretty good. So you can use either one of them, the Jowo number 6 on Asvine or the Moonman nib on the Majohn pen. They are very serviceable. You can actually just use those if you don't want to swap nibs. But for me, my personal use, I like to swap my nibs. Just the option of having any pen, any nib that I want in one of these pens is actually marvelous. I have my Regalia Crossflex nib on the Asvine, and I have the Pelican M800 nib with an extra fine grind on the Moonman, on the Majohn. I do not see a winner or a loser here. They're both winners, both get check marks. Comfort. So in terms of comfort, I will definitely fail this pen because of the ring here. It just digs into my thumb. I have big thumb here, and after writing for 5-10 minutes, it causes a major indentation. Maybe Asvine should work on fixing this problem. It can probably be polished easily if taken out. I'm not going to do that, so they should fix this from the factory. This is a big sore thumb, so to speak. Otherwise, comfort-wise, the grip section is pretty good. I would pass this pen if it wasn't for this, so it's a big failure. I'm going to give the check mark to the Majohn. I think that Majohn has the better ergonomics and the more comfortable writing. So this goes around $60. This goes around 100 to 180 US dollars. Is the extra 3-4 times the price justified? That's subjective, to be honest. I think that a titanium pen at this price is crazy good value, and titanium pen at that price is not a bad value. So I would say that technically the Asvine wins this one in terms of pure value for money, but I don't like the Asvine pen. I don't like to write with it. So to me, the Majohn takes the cake because I write with this all the time. Just by the virtue of the Asvine pen having that bump on the grip section, I don't use it. So I'm going to give the check mark to this because I use this every day. I use these pens pretty much one of the two. I use them every day. This one I don't use, so it's a cheap pen, Jowo number 6 acceptor or carrier that I'd like to use, and it takes my favorite nibs. But there are many other pens that do that too. So in terms of even pure value, I know it's a great pen, but $60 price, although justified, to me that's not value enough to get it. Overall, if I were to give a score out of 100 to these, completely arbitrarily, gut feeling in how the pen makes me feel when I hold in hand and write with it, I would give the Asvine 50-50. I would give the Majohn pen about 85 to 90 out of 100. It's a very nice pen. It is beautiful. And both of these, they fit in hand very nicely. They accept the cream of the crop nibs. They write without a fuss. They don't leak. They don't hard start. Their ink windows are very sophisticated and beautiful looking. Their piston filling mechanism is very smooth. Very, very smooth. These are as smooth as the Mont Blanc. So, and I know that Mont Blanc also has similar pens. They have this stainless steel. I don't think it's titanium. And they also have the hammered pattern. And I can't afford those. And I'll probably not buy one of those. And their stainless steel ones are actually much heavier than this. I do have several solitaires, Legrands, and these pens are just, this feels like twice the size and the weight of the Majohn. So in terms of day-to-day writing, this is a beautiful pen. I love it. It's actually ground to my favorite extra fine by Kirk Spears, which I love it. And this one is around the world, or actually the Petite Prince, writes very nicely. Again, super heavy. These are good for, take it with you one day. People that do everyday carry kind of thing. I take random pens on a daily basis, and what I've found myself is that I never really leave the house without these pens with me, both of them. And the nib on these are very, very big icing on the cake. So I definitely gravitate towards the Majohn P136. So I know that there's a lot of debate about the value of these pens and also the fact that they're kind of like copycats of the Mont Blanc. But these are great pens. To me, this is better than the solitaire Mont Blancs that I have because I can put nibs that are better than the Legrand nibs, i.e. the Pelican nib and the Pilot nib. These are better than many of the Legrand nibs. Not better than all of them, of course, but it's easy for me to put those in here, the nibs that are like and carry them with me without worrying that, you know, this will scratch or I'm gonna lose or anything. At the end of the day, to me, the verdict is very, very clear. The Asvine is really not a serious competitor to the Majohn titanium pins. Maybe in the future Asvine will make one that will be. In fact, I believe that the Asvine V200 is a mightier competitor to the Majohn P136 just because of the demonstrator, the titanium finish, the very, very awesome Bach nib acceptor again, and then the nibs that come on this are also just fine. And I can exchange any of those Bach nibs, any of those nibs in here. For example, the Pelican nib, I can put the Pilot nib on here, anything that I've put on the Majohn. So that would be an apples to apples comparison. I think this stands a better chance against the Majohn than the J16. So today the J16 is a loser in our comparison, but it's not a bad pen. If you can get over this hurting your thumb and just over a tad bit cheap feeling when you hold it in hand, it's not a terrible pen. And for the price, having titanium pen, I think it's worth it. But in this comparison, I do not think that it ranks favorably against the Majohn offerings. I hope that you find this video entertaining, maybe a little bit informative. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll try to answer in a timely fashion. Otherwise, I would like to see you in the next video. Have a good day. Goodbye.